All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results positive or not.
Tuned in to the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bay, bringing you another podcast excursion. Happy Friday, everybody, on this beautiful July the 17th, 2020. I hope all of you have had a beautiful, powerfully blessed, and positive week. Today, we are going to have a very unique and interesting conversation, one that I feel is very necessary. We are going to be talking about the power of no. Now, for many of you out there who are tuning in and listening, you're probably like, the power of no, what does that mean? Many of us, as we go throughout our lives, as we go throughout our normal days, we try to focus on keeping a balance. If you're trying to live any type of mindfulness practice, if you're steeped in any type of spiritual teachings, religious teachings, you understand that there is a balance to life. Some people refer to it as a yin and a yang. Well, a lot of us at times, we are very abstinent, or rather we deny ourselves when it comes to saying no. There's nothing wrong with saying no where it comes to sparing ourselves. Sometimes a certain degree of selfishness is needed in order to preserve the positive energy or the energy that is within us. But guilt is something that can creep in. Why? Why do we at times feel guilty about saying no? The word no itself has no negative connotation on it, but there's so much that is surrounding it. So many feelings. I think when we actually look into this, the word no is the first start of boundaries, specifically when you're a young child. The first thing, or one of the first things you're taught is no. I remember when I was younger, my parents taught me, no, don't touch the stove, which is a good thing for a child as you're learning boundaries. But it seems as if we get older, sometimes setting those boundaries and maintaining them takes a little bit of work, a little bit of maintenance. So our special guest who is here to join us and talk about this conversation is somebody who actually broached the conversation on their own platform. We have special guests joining us this week, Sacred Lotus from Sacred Lotus Radio, a beautiful woman who has been podcasting and sharing her platform and live streaming for a couple of years now. She was actually brought to my attention by a fellow podcaster and fellow social influencer, Callie Cartel. Many of you are very familiar with her, who tune into this platform. She is the host and creator of the Truthful Podcast, now to be found on LPT Network. Congratulations, Callie. So today we're going to be speaking about the power of no with Sacred Lotus. I think this is going to be an excellent show for those of you out there who have had any experience where it's difficult for you to say no. I think this is going to be very educational, and I think it's just going to be an all-around good conversation. So just a note for everybody that's tuning in. You'll probably be listening and you'll hear me say, for those tuning in and watching, so I was going to wait to let everybody know this, but some good news. The De La Fit podcast has been picked up by a specific network called LPT, Live, Prosper, and Thrive. And we will be now on Roku television. So we are now starting to record actual live, actual pre-recorded video for everybody on the show. So in an attempt, we were recording this specific show with the attempt to have it shown live, but unfortunately we had some difficulty with the camera when it showed. I don't know what took place, but we had some problems with the video. But it was such a good interview that we just thought that we would put it here on the podcast for everybody to listen to. So, but just some great news right there for everybody. Yes, we will be on LPT Network. When we have all of the information, we will definitely be advertising that for many of you out there. LPT Network is a station on Roku television. So I am exceptionally pleased about this. So just a heads up for all of you who are listening in and you hear me say the words for the viewers. It's just because that originally, again, this interview was supposed to be for the show, the television show, but it was so good we didn't want to just throw out the entire interview and redo it. So we thought we would have it for today. So I hope you all enjoy it. Let's get into it. We'll be back with the interview with Sacred Lotus Radio right after these messages. De La Fit podcast is sponsored by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, Recovery for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out www.mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life. Remember, their products ship nationwide. Go check out their website today and follow them on social media at MNTMADE. I started using Mountain Made's Build CBD tablets to help me with the injury in my elbow. And let me tell you something. Not only is the injury subsided, but now I can do push-ups and I'm back to bench pressing. So I encourage anybody who's interested to look up, check out Mountain Made and all their products. I think you'll be glad you did. What's going on, everybody? It's Philly's #1 son. Listen, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you how to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a stunning podcast in one place. So listen, if you want to be like me and have your own podcast, go to anchor.fm anchor.com. That's anchor.com.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit podcast.
Degrees of holistic fitness and health. That is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host. We are going to have what I think is an exciting interview today. I am joined by a special guest, fellow podcaster, Sacred Lotus, and we are going to be talking about this topic, which is the power of no. All right, something that I think many of us need to actually relook at where it comes to balancing ourselves. So first things first, Sacred, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, and thank you for having me, actually. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you here. We have been a fan of your podcast since we were alerted to it. Shout out to Callie Cartel.
Yes,
Will you tell us about it? Callie is doing it out there, man.
She's awesome.
Yes, she is. So what we're going to do is you started a topic I thought was very powerful, and it was dealing with the power of no.
Yes.
And let's first, before we get into this, tell a little bit about yourself to our viewing audience, and then we can get into this topic.
Awesome. Again, thanks for having me. My name is Sacred Lotus. I'm a podcaster. I started Sacred Lotus Radio in 2019, and I've always been pushed and encouraged to have my own podcasting platform, but I never took it seriously. I took it seriously in 2018, immediately after my mom unexpectedly passed away August of 2018. So at that point, thank you. At that point, I've always had this voice, and people find it very hard, and I'm introverted. Okay, I'm really shy. Right. Like, so someone like this is definitely, is a great thing for me, So, but I've always had this voice and this thing of speaking for the voiceless or speaking for the unknown. So this is what Sacred Lotus Radio is about. It actually helped me for the grieving process of my mother, okay? So when I came across Sacred Lotus Radio, I picked Sacred Lotus because I love the flower. And if you know anything about the lotus flower, it is a very symbolic flower, and it grows in muddy waters. It's one of the most beautiful flowers ever. And when I looked at it, I said, it describes me. I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I have a big heart, I mean well, but I've always did everything out the mud, So Sacred Lotus Radio is to bring awareness to self-love, self-respect, the truth, speaking things that normally people think and not say. And during this political climate and this pandemic that's going on, a lot of us, we have the voice, but no one's speaking out for us, or people are quick to judge or tell others how to think and how to speak. So with my platform, and it's still fairly new, with my platform, I'm hoping to take it and to engage with human-like people with real issues. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And it's I can understand your journey, because it's a similar one that I myself have had.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about the power of no. Define for our listening, viewing audience, what is it that you would say is the power of no?
To me, the power of no is listening to your inner voice, okay? Going against what others think you should do. no is not always a bad thing. So to me, the power of no is knowing your worth, knowing your truth, and sticking up for yourself. Mm-hmm. So if someone is coming to you and say, hey, I need you to, I need you to work an additional 3 hours for me today. And you've already been on the clock for 9+ hours. You have to go home to take care of yourself, to take care of your children, whatever the case may be. And if you have this mindset to always do for others and to make others happy, you're neglecting yourself. So at that moment, you may feel that you're not doing your best, or whatever the case is, to help the situation. Even if it's a situation where they're cramming and they need you, at that point, if it doesn't benefit you, it's okay to say no. And there's so much power behind it, because when we decline that, when we take that away from ourselves, then this is when we have this whole mental health awareness going on. Then you're overworked, you're stressed out. Somebody is being neglected, yourself, your children, your lover, and your adulting responsibilities. And then at the end of the day, you're at home stressing out, and the person that you actually assisted is sleeping well at night. So there's so much power in it. It seems wrong sometimes to the other party because they're not used to hearing it. So to them, they're going to automatically call you every name in the book, because people don't like rejection, But that's why the power goes on both ends so many ways. But it is important that you know exactly that whatever you do, that is for yourself, and it's the benefit for yourself.
What would you say does it mean for us as individuals to say no? I mean, because many of us, it's easy when you're around friends. We like you and I were sitting here, somebody walks up, hey, like you said, can you work these hours? Or hey, can you do this for me? As friends, we sit here, we talk, I would not.
All right.
There's no way that's gonna happen.
Absolutely.
But many of us find ourselves going against ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why?
I think a lot. I like to use myself as an example. It's easier for me to even answer the question. I think for me, a lot of times I went against the grain and just went along with it. The fear of abandonment, and wanted to be accepted and not to be judged. Thinking if I don't go along with this, or even though I know I can't make it, I would rather much just go along with it just to please others. And when I started digging deeper in itself, and I'm not even like trained when it comes down to psychological things, but I realized that a lot of it, and I think with most people, but I know for me, it comes from childhood trauma. So a lot of times we because like you said, if it was you or my friend or somebody, we're like, oh no, I'm not doing that. But when it's somebody else, I want that person to have a great perception of me. I want them to look at me like, oh, she's awesome. She's, you can go to her and she will do anything for you, because we want to feel needed. We want to feel accepted, want to feel wanted, and when you say it like that, it kind of looks like, oh yeah, right. But when you dig deeper, I personally, anytime I didn't say no to someone, even though when I knew I didn't want to do it, it was because of that. I didn't want to feel like a bad guy. I didn't want to feel abandoned by that person because I'm still trying to get to know them, or I don't know them, and I didn't want them to judge me. So that's with me, how it worked with me. Yeah.
What would you say occurs when we as individuals have not set up appropriate boundaries for ourselves? Like, I'll give an example of, because we're talking about no.
Yes.
But we're really talking about boundaries when we're saying no.
Absolutely.
And what is it that takes place internally for us? I know for me, it's always like an admonishment when I, like you say, go against the grain.
Yes.
Like, I knew I shouldn't have did that, but what's really going on inside if this continues at a consistent pace within us? What is your opinion of that?
Oh man, if I'm understanding, hearing you right, again, I like to use myself as an example, and I like to pride myself in being that I'm different, but we're similar. One thing about my platform, I speak highly about depression and anxiety. And I have no problem saying it because people look at me, they don't believe it. But I am the face of anxiety. I am the face of depression because I deal with it, Right. And with me personally, deeper in, it ignites this anxiety that goes on within us, And when we don't set boundaries, it's really unhealthy. And then it also stunts our growth in who we are and what we're trying to get out of life and whatever our goals and whatever our expectations are of people, even though we shouldn't have many, but whatever our expectations are of ourselves and others, So I would say definitely, it creates this circle that you're in where at some point where you're constantly the yes man, it's like putting a tiger in a cage. Right. At some point when you scream, when you finally do say no, it's not going to be a not so good no. You understand?
So almost like I won't say an explosion, almost as though it's cataclysmic. Our response.
Absolutely.
The inability to say no, or always giving of one's time or of themselves.
Yes.
Where does that come? Well, you spoke on it previously with yourself, and you were saying about the fact of, it's the trauma. Where does that trauma tend to come from, or why is it so? Why does it stay with us for so long?
I think the reason why it does is because, and I hate to sound like a broken record, and it's something that needs to be said because it's real and it's authentic. It stems from not being healed. It's kind of like a cancer. Some cancer starts in stage 4. We know that, right?
Right.
But some cancers start like this, and then it starts to spread. So when it's not treated, by the time you look up, you're at stage 4. And by the time you stage 4, unless you get the proper treatment at that moment to fix it, because it's fixable. Just about anything is fixable, but some things aren't. Sometimes it's too late. So I think a lot of it stems from just not having the because I know like with in Black culture, going to therapy, things like that used to be really frowned upon. It wasn't until recently where we have become more acceptable into getting therapy. And it's not even a Black thing. It is a human thing overall, because a lot of people avoid it. It could be anything. It could be a money thing or insurance, you having to work. Okay. Right. It's not just a Black thing. Everyone deals with it in their own different ways. So when you have these childhood traumas, what happens is you're 31, 28, 40 years old, and it's not funny, but it's something to think about. How are you 48? How are you 36? How are you 29? And you have a hard time telling someone no, because it's a healthy boundary for you. And what I've learned is because that person is still talking to that inner boy, that inner girl. So you might be 26, but internally you're probably only 12.
Okay.
That's what I've learned. It's real. It's so layered, and we don't realize it.
You make me think of a previous conversation I had with a group of friends, and we were talking about it was some girlfriends of mine. They were talking about the fact of it's hard to find a good man.
Yes.
And as you know, you can imagine, all of us together, guys, like, it's hard to find a good woman. What you talking about?
Right, back and forth.
Back and forth. But one of the interesting things was some of the practices and principles that my friends, my women friends, were saying, which was, they were like, a lot of these men seem as though they can't get out of a certain stage.
Absolutely.
And I find it interesting what you're saying, because I have seen it, and so have my buddies. From our perspective, it's like, it seems as though individuals are stuck. I always like to say, in the high school stage.
Of course.
Because that's where a lot of things take place. So I'm like, you got guys that are walking around still trying to impress.
Yes.
Like they're the jock and everything. I'm like, dude, you're 48 years old. What are you doing?
Absolutely.
And so it's something to be said about that also. Like, what do we need to do in those early stages? Because it seems as though we're a lot of us, like you said, we're stuck in that frame of mind. So what do you think we need to do in those early stages so that we can open the door and walk into our actual mentality?
I guess the question is, how do you get a person that's of age, and of age could be anything over 25, let's keep it honest. Right. How do you get a person of age to be honest with themselves? Because listen, with this whole virtual world, and me also outside of my 9 to 5, I do live broadcasting. So when I do live broadcasting on this other platform, I get up to 2,000 viewers every time I go live, Right. And so what I've learned on this platform is people, virtual is real and reality is virtual. Okay. So, and then sometimes when I speak about the things that goes on this platform, people say, well, hey, it's just the internet. I said, no, the internet is just the tool. These are real people logging in, acting the way they are, And I think you saw that latest post I had on my IG, and it was kind of funny because why do we come up with this fictitious way of living? And at some point, and this is real, at some point, subconsciously, when you're constantly telling yourself that you are whoever you want the media to think you are, you start to believe it, So to answer your question, it takes a lot of hard truth. Like, I think the person has to finally get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you have to attack in the good way. You have to approach wherever it is that make you uncomfortable. So let's just say it's credit or something, if you're of age and you want to purchase your home later on down the road, or you want to be able to have a decent credit card, but your credit is messed up. I understand it's kind of difficult to deal with. I understand it can make you a little uncomfortable, but you have to approach it. So whatever the case may be that's going on with you internally, I think that we just have to be more brutally honest with ourselves, not more so what we're good at, but what we're not so good at. You want to get somebody, ask them what they're good at, and they can tell you. It's funny because when you ask someone, it's like when you go on a job interview, what are you good at? They get the stuttering, they don't understand, but they can also tell you what they're bad at. Okay. So, but no one wants to walk around constantly talking about how much they suck. But of course it makes you feel bad. Right. So right. I would think subconsciously you start to suppress it. So when you're constantly suppressing it, it's not being addressed, it's not being fixed. In order to change, you have to, nothing changes if nothing changes. All right. So to really, really dig in and really answer your question is, you have to, whatever it is that only that you need to work on, you have to do it, because you can put it off. Doesn't matter. It's going to still follow you 10 years down the road if you don't address it.
Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the Daylight Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please, take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
You know, and when you're not honest with yourself, this is how we come up with not being able to set healthy boundaries. Because you're not even, how can you, and it's funny you mentioned the relationship comment, because how can I talk about what type of man I desire or what husband I desire if I don't know who I am?
That's a shot right there. That's a shot right there.
And a lot of women, I don't like to speak about men because I'm not a man, right? But I can speak about a woman. And a lot of, I'm of age. And a lot of women think they get it at 30, especially when they make that first little 40, 50, 50K, 60K, you know, they're independent, you know. No. Womanhood is different for everyone, but you don't really start getting it until you're a little later in years and understanding. So, and that's not to shade anybody that's 30. I'll just use this as an example. What I'm saying is when you put social benchmarks out the way.
It's two things you touched on. Two things you touched on. All right. Because I feel like you're opening it up for everybody. So you were talking about knowing yourself.
Yes.
All right. Let's touch on this social benchmarks, because this is something that I often see for a lot of guys. All right, a lot of guys, and I've had this conversation, and it's gotten brutal sometimes because it's that honesty. And I told a friend one day, I said, listen, in our society, in the Western society, in the United States, you are a man when you have three things, just three things. One, you're 21.
Come on.
You have a car, and you have your own place.
There you go.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Now that's for a man.
Right.
I'm like, but there's so much more. There's so much more. And I some of the things that I have witnessed, like I didn't really start to feel like I was opening up as much until I hit my, as you say, my what's the word, dealing with the age, my appropriate age, or my whatever age, you know, like 30 was like,
right.
I'm like, okay, I'm 30. Now you still learning, you're still here.
You're still learning.
Yeah. You know, even communication, you know, a whole new world. It's like learning what it actually is. So again, my thought, and I don't want to go too ahead of myself. I know everybody's like, where are you going with this? Where are you going with this?
Okay, we're getting somewhere, guys. We're getting somewhere.
The thing of it is that I feel as though our job as we become elders is to impart these lessons down to the youth, so that they don't have to go through some of the things that we have went through.
Absolutely.
How do we begin to do that? And how do we let go of our own jealousies, inadequacies? Because I've seen a lot of individuals, I know a lot of elders that couldn't let go, and they put their things on me, knowing it was dysfunctional.
Yes.
So how do we get past that? How do we free our minds up of that?
You know, we have at some point we have to humble ourselves. You know, I don't think you have to go through a drastic change in your life to get it. Mm-hmm. But I know, like with me, losing my mother did it. Okay. And that right there showed me, I will always hear people say, you know, oh, you only have one mom, or tomorrow isn't promised, especially that tomorrow isn't promised thing.
True.
I used to always hear it. Always hear it. And well, yeah, duh, we know that. Duh.
Right.
But my mom, it was sudden. She wasn't sick or anything like that. It just happened. And I have an 8-year-old son, all right? And when she passed, it jolted something in me that I have never felt before. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, you know. It immediately changed me for the better, even though the grieving part is hard. It immediately humbled me, where we put so much value and possession and energy and purpose and things that we can't control. All right. And I think we need to, for one thing, I also believe becoming a minimalist is so important, you know, and that starts there. Looking at the things that we don't really need. You may want it, but do you need it? Because when you have all these distractions around you, how can you focus? How can I be able to give my son what I was taught? Because here's the thing. We were taught to respect our elders, you know, and when my mom passed, if I had to say that any good that came out of it, which was a blessing, it gave me my wings to finally fly because I was so loyal to her. You know, she could say anything to me, even this age, and I will listen to her. So I feel like I finally grew up, you know, and I could finally do me now without having to go to her for her, you know, approval for anything. So I would say is boundaries again, and this comes back to how to say no with boundaries. Live your truth. You have to live for you. Just because Sun and Moon has a brand new 70-inch television, do you need it? I don't care. Just because you see people on Instagram, because with people on these social media platforms, you don't know what they had to do to get it. All right. And they look happy, but they're really not. So you really have to focus on what you have, because once it's snatched from you, my God, you're going to like, oh, I wish I still had that old couch I used to complain about all the time. So I would say definitely we need to humble ourselves. We need to become a little bit more of a minimalist as far as the sense of taking away from things that we really don't need, so we can have the brain power and the focus to put into our children or our future that's going to be taking care of us 20, 30 years from now, you know, and being really honest with people and not saying that if you get this degree, which is awesome, it's going to make you a better person. No, you should make the degree better. The degree should make you the better person, you know, and stop putting things that really have no value or things that can change like that further importance than what you are. You know, so definitely, you know, we have to humble ourselves. We definitely have to stop comparing ourselves to other people. You know, I've been through a lot, and with this world and everything, with this political climate that we're going through, if this doesn't wake people up now, I don't know what else we need to do or what else they need to do, you know, and it's pretty much let us know if we don't get it together now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You know, so that's how I felt.
You said something about minimalism, and I appreciate that. That's something I got introduced to, and I've been working very hard to do. It's amazing how connected, as you said, we get to things. I'm like, I'll have things. I'm like, I've had this for 8 years. Yeah. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. You know, it's like, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
I feel as though, and for everybody viewing at this time, I'm going to mention Corona.
Yes.
It might be a trigger for some, but I'm going to mention this. I feel as though in the overall aspect of life, this is Mother Nature's way of saying we need to, as you say, humble ourselves. We have all effectively become or been forced to become minimalists.
Yes, we have.
And I'm looking at people, I'm watching people, and I'm seeing the effects, and it is highly eye-opening, to say the least. Do you think that? What do you think of today's pandemic and how it's affecting us, and where do you see us going in the future? She's like, no hope at all. It's done. She's like, it's all over, guys. No, joking.
I'm trying to get the right words because I'm a truth speaker, my truth. Okay.
Right.
And I say it like this. Americans, because I've only lived in America, because I can't speak for another country. Okay. Right. So this is just letting you all know, disclaimer. I feel Americans are very spoiled, and we can be spoiled, and we don't like change too much, especially forced change. All right.
I agree.
I will say, with this, with the corona thing that's going on, the pandemic, at first it was a shock, like, hey, who are you to tell me I can't go do this? And it was a little,
right,
iffy at the beginning, but we fell in line much quicker than what I thought we would. I never thought I would see leaving the house and it was a ghost town. People really fell in line. And this is a disadvantage as to why it had to happen, because, so many people have died from it. But the positive thing I can pull out of it is, I don't know about you, but when I said, if we think on a deeper level, this can kind of like save the planet a little bit, because when I would go out, the air smelled different. Like, I don't know. It was just something different. Like, I felt more at peace. I felt more at one with self. I didn't feel so like when I would leave, I'll go outside. I just felt like, okay, boom, just
anxiety.
Anxiety. It just wasn't the same, because of course it was so many people out there. But to answer your question, I think it's teaching people the importance of social distancing, which is important. Okay. Right. We may not like it to this level. I will say, walking around with masks on our face looks like something from out of a cartoon. I never in my life thought I would see that.
Right.
I'm still on the fence as to this whole conspiracies as to what's real, what isn't. But one thing we're not going to deny is that we have people that are dying, True. And so
true.
As people, we have to look at and understand that even though they may not be telling us everything, they know something. So going forward, I think we're going to be just fine. Again, when they had the whole city lockdown, the state lockdown, I just knew it wasn't going to work, but it did. Right. I think with us, we just need patience. That's it. That's it. I think if we know how to humble ourselves and have patience, everything will be just fine. And again, boundaries, how to say no. If you have a child, and we not to get political, because I don't like to talk about politics and stuff, with this whole thing that's going on with I forgot his name, but the guy that's trying, him and his wife, that's trying to get the vaccinations for COVID.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates,
right?
Absolutely right. This is why I'm saying being patient during this time It's going to teach us to be patient, read more, educate ourselves, and get your body and your physical. This is where your podcast as well, because I'm also on this health journey. Getting work when you feel better and your body is better, you can make appropriate decisions. Okay, so we're going to need that when the country comes to you, and especially if you have kids and say, "Hey, we want to inject this in your child." No. You're not going to do that, and everyone is different, but we have to, I think we're in a state of shock, and people don't know what's going on because we never really had this to really happen, and so people are like, oh, so if they're going to fuss us to wear masks, what are they going to do next? But I think if we just breathe, take our time, listen, do what we can do within our own boundaries, okay? And just pay close attention for what's around us. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay, but we just have to do our own research and stop listening to the hearsay, what you hear everybody else do, and figure out exactly what it is. Because it is a scary thing. I'm not really scared. Somebody said I'm crazy because I'm not scared. I'm really not. Because I feel like it's so much going on in our country that if we knew about it, oh my goodness, we'd be scared to leave the house. So
I agree.
We have to look at it like that. Yes, it is important. It's scary. But what control you can have over it, take it. Just keep safe, and do what's best for you. Do what's best for you. But I don't see the country. I think we're going to be fine because it's going to be something else that's going to pop up.
I think that if this hadn't taken place, that the response to what took place to George Floyd and many others wouldn't have been as strong. Because,
Absolutely.
This has been taking place for a far greater time than many individuals want to discuss, think about. But because we were all in the house, because there was no sports, there was no finals, there was no Super Bowl, there was no Stanley Cup, there's none of these things, there's no new movie that's coming out, that, oh man, I can't wait to see it, that you're kind of sitting there and it's like, well, wait a minute. And then it's not just people of African Caribbean descent. It's people all over. Like, no, we can't allow this. This is wrong. And you're right. I find it very interesting that in this time, people are now, let's tear down these statues. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid. People are so upset. But the funny thing of this is that if you study history, this has taken place plenty of times before. Plenty of times. Sacred. Please, at this point in the show, we always like to have our guests give 3 tips, 3 words of encouragement, or 3 points of advice.
Okay.
What are yours?
Oh my goodness!
She's like, put me on the spot.
Let me think, because I have so many. The first one, like the whole purpose of this show here, is know your boundaries. Know your boundaries. It is okay. You have to understand what you will do for others, they may not do for you. So know your boundaries, know what you're willing to deal with, and do it for you. Loving yourself is not selfish at all. So it's what you need to do, because only you know what you need out of life and what serves you best. My second one would be, it's okay not to feel okay. Again, I keep writing. That's another thing I like to talk about. I'm going to bring more awareness on that. I notice people don't talk a lot about is grief. Grief is in different stages, and it can just be anything, not just grief, but it could be anything. But I like to use grief for me. And sometimes, because I have this personality that's going like, hi, I'm really down to earth and bubbly at times.
Right.
I'm human. You're human. You have moments where you just don't feel like it. You have moments where you may feel a little negative, like little, indifferent. Duality is really important. Duality is important, so you may not feel your most positive self. You don't have to be positive all the time, as long as you're not hurting others, physically hurting people, but you don't have to be this perfect sunshine, ray of sunshine every day. It's okay not to be okay, and the people that love you will understand that. And if you have people in your life that's constantly, it's okay for them to have an attitude or feel a little moody, but when you do it, you get the drama from them, politely remove yourself. And if it's someone that you love, then when you're ready to talk to them, then you have that healthy conversation with them, right? So it's okay not to be okay, and I would say my third one, do something different. And I'm learning on this myself.
Okay.
Do something different. Do something that's going to challenge you, because that's the only time you really know how your growth is. You don't know. I'm not saying if you do the same thing as you don't see the growth or you don't recognize it. But when you do something that kind of makes you uncomfortable, but it's something you always wanted to do, you don't know how you're going to react. This is why when we go through things, even though we hate it, if we lose a job, if someone passed, if we break up with our loved one, we don't like it, it makes us feel bad, but we bounce back. We're resilient. And then you realize when you go through something else that could be worse, I can get through this because I went through that. So do something different. Do something different to challenge yourself and get out. Now, I know it may be a little different now because of the pandemic and everything, but one thing I used to always say, I've never been to Africa. I want to travel outside. I want to go to Africa. I want to go to Cuba. But I've never been to California. So how is it in my own country? I'm talking about Africa, London, but girl, you've never been out west. So again, challenge yourself and do something that you always wanted to do, even if that means and this might be like a fourth or fifth one, even if that means having to travel alone. Because when you wait on people, I've missed out on a lot of things. I haven't been to Cali, not because I didn't want to go. I didn't have opportunities. I've had plenty of opportunities to go to Vegas and Cali, but I was relying on other people and they called out. So instead of me just saying, bump that, I'm going to still go. I just didn't go because I was constantly living through others. So get out there and live life, definitely.
Some of my greatest experiences are doing things by myself.
Yes, sir.
With friends, yes. Like, hey, we're gonna do this. I go and they're like, I can't believe you met that person. Yeah, you should have went, homie.
Definitely.
Sacred, where can people come to watch your podcast, which is Sacred Lotus, the Sacred Lotus podcast? Am I correct?
Yeah, Sacred Lotus Radio. Yes.
Sacred Lotus Radio. Where can they come to see you, contact you? I know you're on Instagram. Share your social media presence with the world.
Awesome. Yes. You guys can check me out on Sacred Lotus Radio on SoundCloud. So that's where I upload my podcast on SoundCloud. Just type in Sacred Lotus Radio. I'm also becoming more active on my Instagram, more videos, more podcast material on my Instagram, which is Sacred_Lotus_Radio. I'm also on I'm on all social media platforms. If you're a Facebooker, if you have Facebook, Sacred Lotus Radio, and if you have YouTube. Now, I don't have too many videos on YouTube. Just have YouTube, because YouTube's a whole different beast. I'm still trying to understand it, but
I know.
Still.
I know.
Subscribe to me on YouTube, because eventually I'm going to start converting everything over there as well. I'm not really good with the techie stuff, so I'm still learning, but I definitely have, like I said, SoundCloud, Sacred Lotus Radio is where my podcast is. You have me on Instagram, where I'm the most active. I have Facebook, same name, Sacred Lotus Radio. You can follow me also on Twitter, Sacred Lotus Radio, and YouTube, Sacred Lotus Radio.
Thank you for coming to the De La Fit podcast. This was awesome. It was very exciting to have you here and talk about this.
Yes.
Everybody, we'll be back in just a few.
Thank you.
Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed the show thus far. I really had a good time talking with Sacred Lotus. She is just a wonderful individual, a beautiful, intelligent individual. We had such a good time talking and connecting. Even after the interview was over, we continued a little bit more of the conversation, just because it was so impactful, and we really connected on that. So I hope everybody felt the energy that we felt, because it is a conversation that needs to be had. We need to have more of these truthful conversations and really think about these things and really start to open up our eyes to the balance of life, because life is balanced. It's us as human beings that make it unbalanced. If you look at animals in the wild, and it is my belief that humans and animals, we are not the same, but we share the same space, and the space is the world. So when you look at the human race, when you look at the human race and when you look at the animal race, you will see something. The animals have a balance, even to their lives. You don't see the issues between animals that you see between humans. And that's because they live according to how they're supposed to live. And I feel that humans, we complicate things, and again, not to compare, but I just feel that all of the entities that we share the earth with, they are living as they're supposed to live. We're not the only ones on this earth. So why is it that it seems us as human beings are the ones that have the biggest issues with the way we live? I don't know. It's something just to put out there, something just to think about. But I hope that everybody enjoyed this interview. I am looking forward to the future. As you've heard before, we will be on Roku television. I am so excited about this. LPT Network, Live, Prosper, and Thrive. And I am just excited and thrilled. I will be sharing more of this information with all of you listeners soon. And I want to thank you all, because you are the ones that help us to transition and on to bigger and more powerful things. We couldn't have done it without you out there. And we will continue to give the best content and the best information possible. So as always, if you like what you hear here on the De La Fit podcast, please do not be a stranger. We love to communicate with our listeners. You can reach us at delafit13@gmail.com. Please, you can find us at www.delafitpodcast.com. We are on all social media platforms. Twitter at De La Fit Podcast, Instagram at DE_LA_Fit Podcast. We are on Facebook at De La Fit Podcast, and we will be continuing to grow and get larger and bigger with our family. Thank you so much. I hope that you all enjoy this weekend and enjoy your week. Please remember to treat yourself positively. Be fair with yourself. Treat yourself well. Because when you practice treating yourself kind and well and being honest with yourself, I know that you're going to treat others just as fairly. Please have a great and peaceful week. Peace.
You've been listening to the Delafit podcast. Ta-ta for now.